Jada and I have, we weathered some storms, and that's really the only way that you can get to the other side.
Jada and Will Smith once looked unbreakable, but their love story fell apart in a way no one expected. Not even their own kids saw it coming. Celebrity couples don't get any more iconic than Jada and Will. From their achievements in Hollywood to massive contributions to pop culture, they were the model lovebirds. But something wasn't adding up. Everything changed in the early 2020s when whispers of separations and infidelity started to make headlines. What exactly happened behind the scenes? Is there even an outside chance for reparations? Join us as we discuss the tragic emotional impact of their separation on their two kids. A love story made from complications. It is impossible to think about Will Smith without Jada, and the reason is quite obvious. They just seemed to match effortlessly. Imagine two of the most ambitious black folks in Hollywood deciding to get married. Hollywood immediately framed them as a power couple, and the media followed suit. But that's not exactly how it all began. Will came into Hollywood as a rolling stone, clearing everything in his path and going for gold. And so did Jada. Their energy matched instantly, and a spark was ignited from the very first time they met. Speaking of first meetings, could there be any more awkward first-time meetings between two people than Jada and Will's? For context, Jada auditioned for a role on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and was waiting for a life-changing opportunity that she hoped would launch her career as quickly as possible. But the director had other plans. She was disappointed and left feeling broken until she saw Will, who was, at the time, trying to strike up a conversation. Then, her disappointment turned into rage. She had just been turned down for not being tall enough to play his girlfriend in the movie. But apparently, it wasn't such a big deal in real life. She was good enough for him. However, in Hollywood, the timing is rarely perfect. Will, who was on a steady rise in Hollywood at the time, got a new role on A Different World, where he met Cherie Zampino and reconnected with Jada. But sources close to both parties believed she wasn't particularly welcoming to him. Consequently, Will U-turned and got married to Cherie in 1992. But does that stop these two from yearning for each other? In some cases, marriage has been described as enough to forget an old crush, but in Will and Jada's case, it just wasn't working. It wasn't long before Will's marriage was on the rocks. They had welcomed a son, Trey, but that wasn't enough to keep their marriage sailing smoothly. 3 years in, same old story, and something had to give. Soon after, Will decided on a divorce in 1995 and desperately sought ways to reconnect with Jada. But getting the girl was one thing, and keeping her was a different ballgame. However, that did not matter to these two lovebirds at the time. They got married in 1997 and had 2 kids together. Their marriage immediately became more than a legal union. It represented black excellence, wealth, opulence, and resilience. To most people, they had sacrificed too much to ever let go of each other. But what happens when love starts to demand more than one or both parties are willing to pay? The cracks begin to show. For years, the couple seemed almost untouchable. To most people, they were the pinnacle of a black power couple not named the Obamas. But in a time when monogamy was the politically sane form of relationships and celebrities caught some serious flack from their fans if they stepped out on their marriage, rumors about Jada possibly cheating on Will started to dominate headlines, and the world watched in awe. Could the perfect marriage possibly be showing signs of imperfection? If Will and Jada's relationship could hit a dagger point, is anyone else safe? At first, the whispers appeared as just rumors and bitter, twisted lies that were being deliberately spread through unverified sources to tear down their marriage. But it didn't take long before the cracks began to really appear. First, it started with distance. Imagine a couple who had always been at every important scene together, suddenly appearing alone with no explanation. While many considered it a one-off, it happened again, creating a dangerous pattern of avoidance between the two. But yet again, they soon started appearing together at events. While some sources called it a PR stunt to save face, as they both wanted to manage their image, others believed the couple was just fine and only had a rough patch, which isn't uncommon in a marriage with two ambitious people looking to explore their opportunities. With fans lost in the middle of an unexplainable battle, it did not take long before Jada's patience wore thin. She was tired of the rumors, She desperately wanted to let the world know that her marriage was shaky. But how was she going to deliver that message? A cryptic post on Instagram? A vague post on X? Well, cryptic had never really been Jada's style. She wasn't just a professional actor, she lived for drama and exposure. So, she chose the most go-girl option available to her, a sit-down interview where she explicitly discussed her take on what marriage really is. For Jada, being in a marriage was similar to having a golden cage, shiny on the outside but still restricting. As expected, the interview immediately created an uproar, splitting opinions on social media. Obviously, feminists gave her an "atta-girl," but conformists on social media described her interview as a bag of excuses, asking the same old question: why get married in the first place if she wasn't interested in being the traditional wife? What happens to the kids if the home is broken in half and they have to pick a side? While there were no obvious reasons stated, fans sought an explanation for this interview. Was it born out of her frustration during a rough patch? Or was it a part of something bigger? Tales of broken trusts. Hollywood had always been a harbor of whispers, rumors, and tall tales, making it near impossible to be sure of the truth. But in this cocktail of lies, rumors, and half-truths, Jada was always somewhere in the middle of it all. For example, there is a long-standing debate in pop culture about the truth of her relationship with the late rap legend Tupac Shakur. Although she had often debunked the rumors about a sexual relationship between them, claiming that it was simply platonic, there were way too many unexplainable signs. The cozy photos, the silent glances, and the emotional intensity just felt too real for most fans to be platonic. Over the years, her smooth-sailing relationship with Will Smith seemed just more than enough to overwhelm the rumors about the nature of her relationship with the late rapper. Hence, it never really went beyond what the Smith family and their name could control. But more drama waited in the wings, something the Smith name would not be able to control. In 2016, Jada reportedly had an entanglement with a rising hip-hop star, August Alsina. At first, the claims made no sense. August is much younger than her and was on a steady rise to some serious fame. Hence, the real question was, would he really jeopardize a fast-rising career by picking a battle with one of Hollywood's most respected superstars? But according to critics, Jada wasn't the type of woman who took no for an answer all the time, even though it might mean that her marital vows were about to be shattered into a million pieces. The heart wants what it wants after all, doesn't it? At first, it all started as an unconfirmed rumor, which is nothing new in the Smith family lore. But more photos of August and Jada holding hands, paired with Will Smith's silence, created a monster of a debate. Social media, bloggers, and podcasters couldn't get the Smith family out of their mouths, as they seemed to have too much to point out Jada's infidelity. But did Jada really consider it infidelity? What did she really make of her relationship with August? Jada believed that her marriage had always been a hindrance to the kind of life that she really wanted for herself, and that life was not monogamy. She had a whole different concept of what love, loyalty, and marriage really should be, and now she was ready to spill the beans. So, in 2020, she finally talked about her relationship with the young singer. In the process, she revealed a secret about her relationship with Will that they had kept buried for a long time. Did she really wreck their home by being in a relationship with August? Was there some agreement of an open marriage? Jada's Pandora box. The year was 2020, and Jada had finally decided to let the world know what was really happening in the Smith family. To most people, it was completely out of character because the Smiths, although rich, never really gave too much away about their personal lives. So why do it now? To answer that question, it all goes back to August Alsina. August finally came out in a tell-all interview with Themby from The Shade Room, explaining the Smiths' impact on his life, his journey toward recovery, and how it all tied up into one big romance between him and Jada. The cat was finally out of the bag. Those photos taken by paparazzi suddenly started to make some serious sense. Social media exploded with Jada's image being dragged through the mud. But the question remains, where was Will in all this? At first, he watched from a distance, safeguarding his reputation in silence while planning his next move. The Smiths were just starting to hit normalcy again. Hence, August's kiss and tell wasn't anything the family needed at all. However, it was out in the open anyway, meaning they had to do something about it or let social media decide the Smiths' side of the story. To get out in front of the mess, Jada hosted an interview, Red Table Talk, with Will as her guest, admitting that she had a romantic relationship with August. However, it didn't start like that. At first, it was platonic, and she was a driving force to keep him away from his addiction to painkillers. But after spending so much time together, the relationship escalated beyond their control. Will sat right across the table, listening to his wife as she carefully detailed her decision to be with a young singer who was rather close to the family. But for some reason, his reaction was controlled, half-detached, honest, and hesitant altogether. Critics who watched the interview wondered why Jada was so comfortable admitting what she did, but she didn't let it fester too long to reveal her reason. Jada and Will revealed that their relationship had been on hold at that time when Jada had a relationship with August. It was a bombshell. Fans who had held their breath looking for answers finally got them. But there, it only led to more questions. For how long has their marriage been on hold? Whose fault was it? Did their kids pick a side? Answers to these questions remained elusive and unsaid. But the truth was out, at least a version of it. Will had smiled throughout the interview, some of which critics believed were forced. But it seemed both parties had let bygones be bygones and were looking to create something new. But beneath all the smiling and the truths laid bare, critics believed a new storm was brewing, probably fueled by Will's years of emotional bankruptcy and faltering marriage. But how long until something makes him lash out? A broken Will. After the Red Table Talk interview with Will in 2020, the Smiths looked almost like they were in recovery.
All right, cool. Right, so you get in the van.
Slowly finding their feet again and getting their marriage back to where it used to be. The drama had subsided, and even blogs seemed to have finally moved on from them. But that only lasted until 2022, the moment when the silence around the Smith name started to bore him. Over the years, the 53-year-old had been in a constant pursuit of greatness in the movie industry, looking to build a career that would transcend his lifetime and also have a positive impact on his fans and people who saw him as a role model. And in achieving that, winning the Oscar for Best Actor was a massive step forward. He had finally gotten the chance, as he got the nomination after his on-screen adaptation as King Richard, a role he completely embodied like a true thespian. Critical acclaim came calling in 2022, landing him an Academy Award nomination for Best Actor. He was so close to his dreams, and he was not going to toe the line alone. This time, he seemed to have his wife back. The marriage was working, and the kids were blossoming in their careers. What could go wrong? But when one of the biggest stages in the world for actors comes calling with Chris Rock as the host, that answer might need evaluation, and he knew it too. Chris Rock is a national symbol of what real stand-up comedians can do, and has also become a symbol of black excellence in the ways that he has handled fame over the years, telling jokes and creating rather unhinged sketches over the years. So Will knew what he was up against, but what he did not account for was Chris's unpredictability every time he had a microphone in his hands and a crowd to please. The evening started with the popular red carpet shows, with Willing looking to pick up an award for a job well done. But Chris had other plans. He was on stage, making fun of everything and everyone, basically creating the popular Chris Rock on stage experience that America had gotten used to over the years. But it didn't take long before Chris laid heavily into Jada for her alopecia. She came into the hall bald and beautiful, but Chris's laser focus on the bald part pricked Will deeper than he could take. So he stepped on the stage and slapped him, uttering the infamous line, "Get my wife's name out of your mouth." The hall fell silent, and the journalists were tweeting immediately. To most fans, it was a completely uncharacteristic experience, seeing one of the most level-headed superstar actors in Hollywood acting out like that. While some critics described it as a simple moment of madness, others described it as a man lashing out from the trauma of his bleeding home. The media was in a frenzy, yet flooded with questions. Have Jada's ill decisions over the years broken Will so much that he needed to overcompensate? How will their kids react to this mess? Growing up in the crossfire. Will's actions on the night already set him up for a fierce battle with the media, and he was losing. He had just slapped one of the most reputable comedians in the world on one of the biggest stages in Hollywood, and he had the world of comedy up in arms. coming for him. He had two choices: tough it out and defend what he did, regardless of the doubts and backlash that came with it, or simply apologize for what he had done and hope for the best while expecting the worst. It was a choice between a rock and a hard place, as both really promised serious consequences, albeit one more than the other. While he and Jada had become accustomed to the usual media and PR attacks and learned to deal with them over the years, their kids were also grossly affected. Jaden and Willow were growing up within the crossfire between their parents and the media, and they had two choices. They could duck for cover, completely ousting themselves from the situation, or come out swinging, defending their parents and facing the PR hell together. If no one was certain of their choices before, Jaden immediately lashed out on the internet, defending his father's decision to smack Chris, whom he believed had disrespected his mother, in a cryptic post on X, formerly Twitter. And that's how we do it. He expressed complete support for his father, showing that he was firmly in his corner. As expected, social media critics were enraged and immediately ripped into Jaden, using visceral and scathing attacks to bully him off social media, telling him to bring down the post. However, he was resilient, keeping his posts up and gallantly defending his parents. On the flip side, Will had folded like a house of cards, garnering the strength to apologize to Chris and his family for what he had done. However, he was immediately refused. Chris's mother spoke in an interview about Will's actions, claiming that he had not only slapped her son, but also all of The Rock's family. But Chris didn't only have his family by his side, he had the world of comedy supporting him, especially Dave Chappelle and Bill Burr. Dave called Will a pretender who had been wearing a mask for well over 30 years, but he had finally pulled it off, and now the world could see that he was just as ugly as the rest of us. Following Dave's comments, Bill Burr also said his piece, claiming that Will was rather rewarded with a slap on the wrist rather than a serious punishment for assaulting an Oscar host. But could this be the end of the Smith family, or will their kids ever heal? Jaden and Willow find a way to heal. Will Smith's kids finally found a way to heal even after their parents' separation. However, sources close to Jaden believed that he, especially, carried a lot of guilt for how things came to be between his parents. But just why would he feel this overwhelming sense of guilt and regret? Jada's part of the story was more than enough to reel him in as an important part of her affair with August, because she claimed to have met him through her son in 2015. Although she claimed that Will did give her his blessings, insiders suggest that it was not enough to absolve him of any guilt that he felt. While their parents claimed to have found ways to heal, it was time for the kids to do the same. But how did Jaden and Willow try to manage that? They decided to drop the Smith name. While being born to Hollywood legacies like Will and Jada came with its perks, it was not without its problems, and Willow figured that out really early. She had a blossoming music career on the rise, and her parents were hovering in the background like that drunk uncle everyone wants at the party. Will and Jada are family, but they were also becoming a possible deterrent, and they somehow needed to go. Although Willow took her decision as early as 2019 with no room for deterrence, Jaden, yet again, waited it out. Insiders claim that Jaden's reluctance came from his first experience with his parents when he told them he wanted to be free from them. 15 was the legal emancipation, hence, he was well within his rights to do what he wanted, but his parents reportedly begged him to stay, creating an emotional moment between the trio.
Keep going, just keep going, you know what I'm saying? That's what it's all about.
Was he really ready to relive that experience if he ever decided to drop the name? After a few years of consideration, he made his choice. He wanted out, and that was final. So in 2020, he announced the inevitable. He dropped the Smith last name, citing his music career as the reason for his decision. As expected, the media were split in their opinions. While some considered the decision naive and a point of no return for Jaden, others seemed to sympathize with his decisions. Somehow, they saw the emotional toll that dropping a last name for one's career could take on him. However, following the 2022 moment of madness from their father, Jaden and Willow stood firmly in their father's corner, especially Jaden, who immediately made a cryptic social media post, supporting his father's decision to fight for his mother. But Jaden wasn't the only Smith kid looking to stand up in the face of adversity for his family. Willow spoke to an interviewer about the mountainous standards that are set for her family to follow just because of their name and reputation in pop culture. Maybe dropping a name didn't matter at all, especially when they still defend it like that. But as the dust settles, social media raises new rumors about the couple getting a divorce. How impactful was this rumor in the grand scheme of things for the Smiths? The divorce rumor that changed everything. Having revealed the truth about their separation since 2016 during the Red Table Talk in 2020, many have wondered, and rightfully so, about what really keeps the Smith family together. Was it the money? Was it the fame? Was it for the Hollywood black couple's PR? No one had ever really had an answer. However, the lack of answers has only added more fuel for the fiery rumors to grow wildly. For years, the speculation had continued to grow about a possible divorce, but Will and Jada always seemed to shut it down before it could fester like an open wound. The couple had gotten accustomed to the situation and finally found out how to play it without getting sucked into another PR war. Will and Jada already made a public promise to never get a divorce, even after the illusion of their perfect marriage had been shattered by August's interview. It wasn't too difficult to find a reason why they would decide not to divorce. Instead, it was more difficult to apply logic to their reason for staying together. But on the flip side, social media had never really spread news based on some genius logical reasons. All it ever needed was a trendy topic about popular faces and enough reposts to get the news across the world. So, on April 8, 2026, an X account named Hoops Crave posted that the pair was headed for divorce. While he cited no sources, it was enough to reel social media in, with opinions splitting about the couple's decision to divorce out of the blue. While the rumors swirled, there was no proof of a court filing, nor a statement from Will or Jada. But is silence always a show of strength or a possible display of acceptance? While some parts of social media discuss the post as another rage-bait post, others believe that there might be some truth to it. There is no smoke without fire after all. The pair had been through different waves of social media rumors, especially the popular Mark Anthony story in 2011. The blogs peddled rumors that Jada was in a romantic relationship with the superstar musician at the time, amid reports of a problem between her and Will, but they did not let the rumor fester at all and immediately debunked it, which makes their recent silence even more disturbing for their fans. Whether Will and Jada finally decided to confirm or debunk the recent divorce rumor remains to be seen. Do you think the couple might be truly looking to get a divorce? How impactful will the news be on the kids? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.